Most financial advisors ask great questions about where their clients want to go, but very few ask the right questions to uncover what's getting in the way, especially for their business owner clients. So, if you have clients who own a business and you're a financial advisor, this video is for you. So, here's what I've noticed working with business owners in the 250K to 3 million up to $5 million revenue level. Their personal financial goals, things like retirement, owning a second home, and building real wealth, are almost always tied directly to how well the business is doing. And a lot of times it's not really running as efficiently or going quite as well as it looks from the outside. Revenue might be growing, they're looking successful, but their take home pay hasn't kept up. And they're making decisions based on gut feel rather than data. Nobody in their corner is connecting the dots to help them see where they should go. So there's just this disconnect between how they're feeling, how the business is doing, and what they're actually keeping in the bank. So the gap is not something that you as a financial advisor are expected to solve, but you are in a perfect position to see the warning signs, to see the indicators that the gap is there so that you can help your clients out. So in this video, I'm going to share 6 questions that I would ask business owner clients if I were in your seat. So questions that go a little bit deeper than the standard personal financial planning conversation, and they'll help you understand what's going on in the business, show up as the advisor who sees the full picture and knows exactly when it makes sense to bring in outside support. So for each question, I'll tell you what to listen for because the answer matters, but what matters more is what the answer is telling you about what this client might need. So 6 questions, here we go. The first thing that you want to know is whether they have the basic financial infrastructure in place. Not because it's your job to manage it or because you need to know the details of tax law or bookkeeping or anything like that, but because it tells you whether that person is even in the situation where they can use strategic help effectively. So we want to know, are they in setup mode or are they farther along and maybe ready for a little more strategy? So 2 questions I would ask in this foundational level are, number 1, do you have a bookkeeper and do they keep your books current? And do you have a CPA and do you like them? So what you're listening for here is if the books aren't current or their CPA relationship is, purely transactional, filing in compliance, not really advising, not really a lot of communication, they are missing some of the foundational pieces because we want to have a really strong communicative relationship between the business owner and these 2 key people who really manage their availability of data and information. So if they're, if they don't have a bookkeeper and they don't have a CPA, or they do, but they don't like what they're doing for them, or they don't think it's a good fit, they might need a referral to fix that first. So having people in your back pocket who you can refer for those types of roles is invaluable. So if both of those are in place and they're like, yeah, we're good there, but they're still feeling financially uncertain, that's really interesting because it means that something else is going on there and something isn't working. So we're going to need to dig a little deeper and ask people some more questions in order to figure out what's going on and where you might be able to help them out. So, and just like a quick side note, I talk to a lot of people. A lot of people ask me for recommendations on bookkeeping and CPAs. And whenever I ask the question, do you like your CPA? It kind of stops people in their tracks because they don't know that they're supposed to like them or like not allowed to, they don't know that they're allowed to like look for somebody who is really a good fit for them. So if you run into that as well, you know that it's great to have a Rolodex of people who you can call on and refer your clients to so that they actually get a good match who works with their style and is a comfortable relationship for them. So after those foundational questions, we want to know, okay, you have the data in place. Now, is it being used? So these next two questions are around whether they are able to get at the data and use it. So the first question I would ask here is, does your bookkeeper send you reports? If so, do you use them to make decisions, or do you just like archive them in your email or shove them in a drawer, never to be seen again? Or, what happens with the reports? So most people will kind of laugh at this one or try to avoid eye contact maybe, because the honest answer is usually like, yeah, I might be able to get them, but I don't know what to do with them. And that's not, to say that this is a criticism, it's a structural gap. So it's the reports exist, they don't know what to do with it. We need to help them understand what to do with it, give them that interpretation guidance. And then the fourth question is, do you know which of your services or your clients or whatever, your client's industry is, are actually the most profitable? So this one is a really telling one because most people will either be able to say, yes, I do, or to say, no, I don't, but I really know that I should. But that's one thing that really stresses me out. But that's a question I've had for years, and I just don't even know how to get that information. So the what is the most profitable is a really telling question where people, I don't know if they feel kind of embarrassed that they don't know, or it just seems to be one of those things that really hangs over people's head and they wish that they had more information about being more profitable. And for a business owner, like let's say this is kind of their second act, like they have left corporate and started this business, it really, really bothers them that they don't have the decision making based on data part of it down. So they know that that's not how it should work. They know that they should be able to have a decision making framework that's based on real data and not just their gut feel. But they just don't know how to do that yet. So these questions tell you if they know that they have a problem. So if they're like, nope, I don't get any reports, I don't know what's the most profitable, and it doesn't matter, I feel great, then okay, great, no big deal. It might bother you, it might bother me, but if it doesn't bother them, all right. But if it does bother them, and it's one of those things that tends to be, like I said, like I've had this question for years and I don't know what to do about it, that's a really important place that you can add a lot of value for them by directing them to the right person to help. Okay, now the last two questions are really getting at how they're feeling about their whole financial situation. So when they walk out the door and go back to the office tomorrow, how are they going to be feeling about how things are going? So the first one is, on a scale of 1 to 10, how much stress does the business cause you right now? So on this one, it's a pretty simple question. Anything higher than a 6, definitely requires some digging. So somebody who looks successful from the outside and is like the high functioning, high revenue, and high stress is a very specific profile. And it's one where people are really usually too busy to ask for help or not sure where to go until somebody who they really trust kind of opens their eyes or provides an opening to really talk about like, wow, that's really stressful. How does that look in your day-to-day life? What would like if you got that under control? So thinking about 6 or higher, that's a really good indicator that there's a high level of stress there. And a lot of times it can look like people are doing great on the outside, but their numbers are much higher than you would think because there's so much just buzzing around in their head that they're not sure about. And then the last question, and kind of a guideline on how to dig into that stress number question a little bit, is what would look different for you that would bring that number down? So if they're at an 8 or a 9 or a 10, what would look different that would bring that number down to a 7? right? We're not talking like, oh, let's, magic and unicorns and rainbows. If you had no financial stress in your life, what would you do? But really tangible and practical questions about what would it look like if we just had that at a 7? What do you think would give you that a little, incremental level of peace? Or if they're at 5 or a 6, what do you think it would look like to bring that down to a 4? And just get at, how can you help them bring a little more peace of mind into the business finances? So it gets people thinking differently just about, just naming their number is one really interesting exercise that gets people in a frame of mind where they start thinking about, okay, there is a possibility for improvement. There is a possibility for, even if it's just incremental change, and being the person who opens that door can be really valuable. So you don't have to solve the problems that are uncovered by any of these 6 questions, but you are helping them inherently by naming it and pointing them to resources that could really help. So none of these are technical questions, they're business owner questions, and you are in the exact right position to help people who are dealing with these issues. So in the next part, I'm going to walk you through just a little bit about what these answers tell you and how you might think about next steps after a conversation where you're asking these questions. So if you are getting the sense that, okay, something's really off in one of these areas, this client could really use some help with their business finances. What I would suggest is just keeping it really simple and saying, hey, there's someone I want you to talk to. They work specifically with businesses like yours that are profitable, but are struggling with XYZ struggles that you talked about. And I think a conversation would be worth your time. So that's a great way to just open the door. If they're like, nope, I never want to talk about this again, then you have that information. But most of the time, people are going to be like, I really would like some help with this, but I didn't know where to go, or I didn't have time, or it seemed like too big of a project to tackle on my own to figure out how to ask for help for this. So we want to help clients who are going on gut feel, but really feeling stressed out about it, and helping them get to a place where they're feeling great about their business finances. So again, you're not diagnosing the problem. You're not stepping out of your comfort zone. You are doing what great advisors do, which is connecting your clients to exactly the right resources at exactly the right time. And that kind of intro really deepens your relationship with a client because you are showing that you're different, right? You are asking the questions that no one else thought to ask. You are helping them uncover things that they didn't know that they needed. And it doesn't have to be super complicated, as you can see with these 6 questions, but most advisors just don't even think to ask them because it's not exactly your wheelhouse. So now you do. Now you know how to broach a conversation in a really non-confrontational and non-judgmental way. So making sure that we are coming with a spirit of curiosity and trying to help clients, which is what you're doing every day when you're building those relationships. So if you want to talk with me about whether any of your clients might be a good fit, I would love to do that. Go ahead and send me a DM or grab time on my calendar. And if these questions were helpful and you're thinking like, wow, these 6 questions were awesome, what's next? I have a downloadable list of a bunch of other questions that you can work in as well that do build on these questions and help you do even more work around when you've got somebody who is into the conversation and you can tell that they are loving the interaction and the collaboration around what they're struggling with. You can use those questions to help frame that conversation. So again, go ahead, DM me or just leave a comment if you want that PDF. And that's all for today's live. Thanks for watching, and go ask better questions.